Welcome to the Page by Page Book Club. I'm your host, Paige in Print, and I bring you weekly book club readings wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, y'all. Hello. Welcome back. You may be thinking to yourself, if you are a weekly listener, why are we not doing a reading recap episode this week? Because it's reading recap episode week. I'm going to be honest with you. March was not that girl for me. In terms of reading, it was a great month, actually. I had a really, really lovely month. But in terms of reading, she was not that girl. I did not read very much. And the books I did read, I cannot discuss at this time. Which I know is very secretive, but it's part of my job. So it kind of stinks. But alas. So, with that being said, this episode would have been about 5 minutes if I would have just forged ahead with a classic episode. So here's what we're going to do. New plan, different plan, better plan. Next reading recap episode, so April, we'll do a combo recap episode. I think that's good. I think that'll give us plenty to work with. I've read more books in April than I've read in March. And I'm recording this on the 6th. You see how that works? You see how that could be a problem? Yeah, so anyway, we're here today. And I had a fun little funky fresh idea. There have been a lot of new friends since I started this podcast, and I have not done just a good old-fashioned get-to-know-me moment since the beginning, and a lot can change in a year. The podcast has been in existence for over a year now, which is crazy. I did take a quarter off there last winter, but we're so back. We are #so back. And so I figured, let's do a little chit chat. Let's do a little bookish get to know me. I pulled questions from friends, from some bookish quizzes, and just some leading questions for things that I would love for you to know about me. And I figured we'd do a little get to know the book club host episode. It'll all be bookish in nature for the most part, but why not? Just allow me to reintroduce myself, if you will. So, to get us started, just a little bit about me if you don't know me. Hi, I'm Paige. For those of you who do not know, Paige is my middle name. Paige is my middle name. I'm the 7th generation Paige of my family. There are Pages like us first names, double names, middle names, etc., etc. I chose Paige to go by online because, one, the pun was too good. There's no I in my Paige, and so it's Paige like a book, and we love to see that. The other reason is just for a little bit of privacy for my family and for my husband and for his family. We decided to go with a little bit of an alias. So many people know this, many people don't know this. But Paige is my middle name. I do go professionally by Paige. Everyone I work with calls me Paige. It's actually quite funny. My husband and Molly Goins will sometimes banter back and forth about this because she'll be like, Paige this, Paige that. And then my husband will be like, my actual first name this, first name that. And they'll be like, we're just going to have to agree to disagree. So a lot of people ask, do I like that I have used an alias for the bookish space? Yes, I think it was a really lovely thing to do. I don't mind that it's not my first name. I like the little bit of, a little bit of anonymity. Is that the word that it gives me? So, yes, I am married to my dearest, darlingest, love of my life, best friend, Mr. Paige in Print. He's everything to me. I met him on Bumble, and it was a really fun story. I was sharing my screen with my college roommate, and we were scrolling through Bumble together and kind of doing a group vote on, we knew the things I was looking for, and so she was holding me accountable and those kind of things. I was about to swipe past my husband because he did not have a lot of information on his Bumble, and then my roommate was like, no. He has great teeth, which he does. And so I swiped right on him. That was on Friday or Saturday, and then by Sunday we'd both deleted the app. By Monday was our first date. Wednesday was our next date, and he's been mine ever since. He is everything to me. We love Mr. Paige in Print. I think my favorite thing about him is I've never, ever wondered once how he has felt about me. He is always extremely forthcoming and patient and kind and loving, and is not precious about that. He is always willing to share his feelings. So He's everything. I could not do this without him. Man, like when I was working my corporate job and working this job full time, so it was like, y'all know the tale, 80 to 100-hour weeks. He was the most patient, supportive, lovely, incredible person on the planet. Like, if I would not have kept going if he weren't here in my corner cheering for me. So, and just picking up the slack in our house. Like, he was cleaning, he was helping me cook. Like, he just really believed in this and still believes in this. And so for that, I am eternally grateful. So dual income, no kids with a dog, a little dinkwad action for us. We're both Nashville natives, which we love Nashville. We live outside of the city, but both grow up here, love it here. So that's a little bit about like me. Well, let's get into the bookish of it all, right? Let's start with what got me into reading and what made me fall back in love with reading. So, as we know, I did not grow up reading. I was not super into the concept. I was a musician. I toured, I sang. I did that for quite some time, 8 years-ish, let's call it. And music was everything to me, and that was my primary form of media and where my interests lied. However, there were a few glimmers in the distance that I would have loved reading if I just would have picked up books. So some reads that I did read in middle school, high school that I absolutely loved and was very like locked in on, hyper fixated on, and I think if I would have kept reading, I would have been like a full-blown reader, were like classic from middle school Wonder. I remember very clearly. And then, of course, you have your Divergent, The Fault in Our Stars, Looking for Alaska, at all. Like, all that type of beat. I did not, in high school, read The Hunger Games, which is kind of wild. I did read Divergent, but not The Hunger Games. But my childhood best friend, she's been on this podcast before. It's one of my favorite episodes. So if you haven't checked that out, I think it's called There Wouldn't Be This If There Hadn't Been Her, or something along those lines. Man, she was the reader out of our friend group and just would always be like, you should read this, you would love this, da-da-da. And I'd always be like, maybe. And she'll tell you on that episode, she always knew that my maybes meant no. But one day, one fateful day, that maybe turned into a yes. And that fateful day was on my honeymoon. I had been following the one, the only Torianne Harris. Torianne reads on TikTok along with a few other creators, and I was like, I think I could be into books. I think I've always loved love and romance and those kind of things, so I was like, I think I could be into this. And so I took 3 books with me on my honeymoon so that I wouldn't be on my phone the whole trip. I really wanted to detox and detach and all that stuff. So I took with me King of Wrath by Anna Wong, In a Jam by Kate Canterbury, and Powerless by Elsie Silver. I don't know how I ended up with Powerless and not Flawless, but it must have been on my book talk. Read both King of Wrath and In a Jam, and the rest is history. That's how I got back into it. I started reading. I absolutely fell in love with it, and I have not stopped since. So that is my re-entry into the reading world. And then, what kind of reader am I? Mood reader, TBR reader, chaotic, etc. So before reading became my job, and quick side note, I am a literary publicist and COO to authors, so I manage operations and publicity for my clients who are authors. I love it. Dream job, best job in the world. There's nothing better than my job. I could not be more in love with what I do for a living. So before I started this job, I was still a TBR reader. I very rarely am like super, man, I'm really in the mood for XYZ, or I'm not in the mood for this. Like, for the most part, I could just be like, okay, next up, and just pick something. So I've always been a TBR reader, but especially with this job, I have the incredible opportunity to read a lot of my clients' work early, and with that I really do have to schedule out and plan out my months when I'm reading. And so I would say I've always been a TBR reader, but now I am a like work reader. I read what I need to read for work, and if I have a brief moment where I can kind of pick something up, I'll usually go to one of my best friends and be like, all right, you have one spot, what would you like for me to read? So that's kind of how I pick my books in my TBR. And then, do I DNF? I do not. I am not a DNFer. I can't think of a single book that I've ever DNF'd. However, I, for the most part, really do know what I like when it comes to books, and I will not pick up books that I'm like, this is not going to be my beat. This is not going to be my truth. I really, really try to like keep a finger on the pulse and do my research before heading into a book. So knowing tropes, knowing kind of the dialogue style a little bit, paying a little bit of attention. It's a little bit more of an investment up front before I start reading, but that certainly helps. And then, to be honest with you, I primarily read a lot of my clients' books, and my clients are my favorite authors. Like, what a blessing is that? So I would have been reading their stuff anyway, but getting to read their things too. So, but all I say, I don't DNF. I don't. I just, because I very rarely, if ever, find myself in a situation where I don't want to continue on with the story. And if that's ever the case, it's usually I'm the problem. It's me. So, yes, that is my truth about DNFing. I totally think DNFing is very liberating and valid, but it's just not my truth. But you DNF all day. I do not think this is the morally superior take by any means. DNF all you want. Okay, let's see. My favorite trope, an underrated trope, and a trope I haven't or won't read. So my favorite trope, man, I used to always say friends to lovers, and I do stand by that. I do love a friends to lovers trope. My very first favorite trope, as you could tell with the King of Wrath and in a Jam, was Marriage of Convenience. I do love that as well. But as of late, I have really been enjoying a, like, I mean, you know what? No. There's no reason to pretend. Romantic suspense is going to be everything to me every time. What I was going to say and what I was trying to get at is a super, like, heavy plot-driven moment, and I feel like that's where romantic suspense is really showing up, where it's us against the world instead of you versus me, and I really, really love that about suspense. So that is always going to be my go-to. It's my most read genre. It's my most read trope, if we can even call it that. So romantic suspense is a fave. I do love a cowboy. I do love a childhood friends to lovers. I do love a childhood friends to enemies to lovers. There's something to be said for this. I love this. I will unpack this with a professional. I do love like a overcoming grief situation. Yeah, I will phone in a friend, aka a professional, to unpack that together. But yeah, I would say that's a favorite. An underrated trope. Underrated is always going to be friends to lovers. People just aren't loving friends to lovers the way we should, I fear. It's always enemies to lovers. Whatever happened to friends to lovers? Maybe in 2026, like, we're getting into the friends to lovers train, but that's my truth. Any other underrated? I'm looking around at my shelves to see if there's anything that really stands out to me. I do quite love a, like, rivals to lovers moment. A rivals to lovers with a side of pining really is, there's something to that. There's something to that, and I don't know, maybe she gets rid of a toxic ex. I do love that trope. Like, she's upgrading. A trope I haven't read or won't read, your girl doesn't do a love triangle. There's very rare circumstances that I'll do. Well, the rare circumstance that I will do a love triangle is when you know who the guy is going to be out the jump. I'm fine with that. If I know who the MMC is and then there's another person in the mix to make it a triangle, that's fine. It's not my favorite. It's been done exceptionally well. So there's something to it, but it's just not my fave. But a true classic love triangle, I'm not your girl. The cheating trope, I'm not your girl. So I really struggle with, like, that type of angst. It's just not my truth. But I know people love it, and that's what makes the world go round. I love finding, like, Torianne and I have the most differing opinions when it comes to books. She'll be like, I love that one. And I'll be like, and I love this. Like, I think it's so fun for us. So, yeah, I think those two are not my jam. I actually don't know her stance on those tropes, but those are ones that I haven't/won't read. Again, if I know who's going to quote unquote win the love triangle, I'm good. Otherwise, not so much. Speaking of that, I love spoilers. I love seeking out and finding spoilers. I am an anxious enough person as it is that I prefer knowing what's coming, especially in a super angsty book, instead of just going in blind. I do not have the emotional bandwidth at this time to be broken over and over again. Like, can I at least mentally prepare to be broken? Yes. Okay. So that's my truth. That's who I am. Yes. What is my favorite kind of tension? Per my last email, I do love a rivals to lovers moment, whether it be like rival families or academic rivals. I do dig that. But there's no tension like the second chance tension. And I'm on record many a time saying that I refused to read Second Chance for a very long time. It just wasn't my truth for personal reasons. And I just was like, no ma'am, with that trope. And then I read it and I was like, oh, I was so wrong. So Second Chance always hits. Always. I'm looking at Drifting Dawn. I'm looking at You Blue Norther. These are upcoming releases that are second chances. And I'm just like, yes. Yes. So my favorite tension, I think at the moment, is second chance tension. A little age gap tension is always fun. A little brother's best friend tension. I'm looking at you, Bourbon and Proof. So love it, can't beat it. Slow burn versus instant chemistry. I think it just kind of depends on the couple. I love when chemistry just feels right for the couple. Like, there's something to be said for the one night stand turned strangers to lovers, or one night stand turned enemies to lovers, or friends to lovers. I like that. So I don't mind a little instant chemistry moment. But yeah, I don't really have a burn preference. If the burn's done well, burn at any time, my love. Burn fast, burn slow. I'll be there. I'll be sat. I'll be enjoying. In fact, is it about the burn or is it about the journey along the way? You know, I'm kind of a journey along the way type gal. So what's a relationship dynamic that I'll never get tired of? The attached at the hip best friend. The FMC and her best friend who's attached at the hip. That's the relationship dynamic in romance books that I'll never get tired of. Every book that has an FMC, and if it's a book 1 and book 2 is her best friend's book, give it to me now. Give it to me now. The funny best friend? Yeah, I will always love the funny best friend. And there's something to the formula of book 1 is that FMC, and then book 2 or later in the series is the funny FMC who was the best friend, the funny best friend in the first book. There's something to that. Mark my words, there's something to it. Who is my ultimate book boyfriend? Y'all know this. He's the duality of man. He is strong and soft. He is gentle and patient, but in charge. Citing Jed Ellison. Citing Everett Ramos. Ria DeLuca. I mean, I love those men. Who else? What Saves Us Maggie Gates has this. Here and Now. Corinne Michaels has this. On Lover's Lane, Samantha Young has this. I love it. Bourbon and Secrets. That's my man. Golden Retriever. But he can lock in. Weston Belmont, etc., etc. You see? Love him. Love them. So yeah, that's kind of my bookish question, or like character plot, etc. questions. Let's see. Let's talk about bookish content creation for a moment. Maybe people are curious, maybe not. I have been creating bookish content for 2 years now. Loosely. Casually. Probably, I think my true 2 year will be, I don't know. Math is hard, but I've been at it. I've been here. There have been people here way longer than me. Let's make that super clear. But I've been at it. Your girl's been making content. So how do I read so much while working full time? Per the fact that this was supposed to be a March reading wrap up and we're not doing that, this may not be the time for me to be answering this question. However, 2 things. 1, I absolutely love reading. I love stories, and so it's just I crave it. I want to read romance. I want to read romantasy, and so I think I just have a desire and love for it that makes it really helpful. I also do my best to bake it into my work days. So I try to finish up work around 3 or 4 and then read in the evenings. So that's been working well. I love an audio, but you would be shocked. I have a brick as well, which shuts down my phone at 5 p.m. every day, and you would be shocked. Shocked. How much time you get back when you're not on your phone or watching TV. So that's kind of how I read as much as I do. How do I decide what books to read? So kind of like I said at the top of the episode, it really just comes down to what I need to read for work and what my clients need me to read, what they're expecting of me, that good stuff. So just depends on the client, and if I do have any capacity there, I will just ask a friend and be like, all right, babe, what you want from me? So similar question, but how do I decide what books to talk about? Generally speaking, if I read a book, I'm going to talk about it. Again, like I said earlier in the episode as well, I very rarely read something that I don't enjoy. And even if it's not my cup of tea, it's usually, again, a personal thing. And there are hundreds of thousands of people out in the world that would love it. So just because I love it don't love it doesn't mean someone else will, and vice versa. Just because I love it doesn't mean everyone has to. And that's a beautiful thing. I hope everyone doesn't like and dislike the same things as me. That would be such a boring place. So I will, unless it was like really problematic or I just really, really didn't like it, I will always recommend a book that I've read, I guess, or if like the author's unkind, which again, very rarely happens. So, but to get a little more nitty gritty and the behind the scenes of my actual content creation, if I have a client release coming up or a release I really want to support, I will try to, one, make a video dedicated to that release, and then you'll notice that one of the primary tropes, I'll make like a recommendation video with those tropes for the week. So I try to like tie in releases and get them some visibility as best as possible when I can. So that's kind of how I plan my content. Do I ever feel pressured to like popular books? Good question. No, I don't usually feel pressured to like popular books. I will usually wait to read them or until I have the capacity to really give them my full attention, so that I can actually enjoy them for what they are. Like Rewind It Back, for example, it took me a few weeks to read that one because I just really wanted to be able to dedicate the time and energy. Like, I haven't read Brimstone yet, which we know I loved Quicksilver. I haven't read In Her Own League yet, which we know I loved Windy City. So there are a few big ones out there that I'm just waiting to read till I have the energy to do so, but it's not out of fear that I'm not going to enjoy them, because I'm certain that I will. Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a better question or answer to that question, but it's a great question. How do I avoid burnout? Oh, that's a really lovely question that I am exploring myself now. It really is hard with just content creation and books, and just like books, like I eat, sleep, breathe books and reading, like truly. My clients know this. I mean, I'm sure if you just watch my content, you know this. And so it is hard, but I try to be sure to nurture my hobbies outside of this space and still have an identity outside of it. And it does help, again, back to the top, all this is looping back, having a bit of an alias. Paige is not a character to me, like I am Paige, she is me, but to have a sense of self outside of this, and then there's a name for her, not to get wee-woo, but that's very, very helpful for me. So some things I love music critics. I love watching music critics on YouTube, Substack, Patreon. Those, there's a few that I really like. I love Zachary, the Swiftologist. I love Madeline, the Lizard Review. I watch a few others. Chat and Reacts, love them. So there are a few that I love there. I love teaching indoor cycling. I've been doing that for years now, so still really love that. Love being around and spending time with my husband. Love watching sports with him. Love my family. I love to shop. I love to shop. I love fashion, makeup, hair, etc. So anyway, that's kind of what I do to try to avoid burnout, is just to have a sense of self outside of this. So, how has reading shaped who I am as a person? Oh gosh, I mean, in every way possible, reading has shaped who I am as a person. I talk at length regularly about reading for empathy and the opportunities that reading gives me to place myself in the shoes of someone who's different than me, and how just invaluable that is to me, and how that has impacted my understanding of the world around me. So I think that's just foundational to who I am as a person. It has also just, quite frankly, gotten me off of screens, and I feel like screens are frightening places at the moment, just for all kinds of reasons. And so having an escape in that way, reading has changed everything for me. I think I am more confident and more self-assured than ever before because, again, the empathy of it all. So, I mean, there are so many elements to this, but I think it has changed everything. Everything. I mean, it's changed my life, my career. To imagine that I was not reading in July of 2022, and then the fact that it's my job here today in 2026. No, July of 2023 was when I started reading, and the fact that I'm here in 2026 and this is my job. Like, how has reading changed my life? Like, literally every facet is just forever altered because of reading. So that's great. Okay, let's finish with some rapid fires, and then I will set you free, friends. My rapid fire questions are: ebook, physical, or audio? Immersive with ebook and audio. That's my preference. Always, 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 always. So I don't know if that's fair. Annotating, yes or no? Highlighting, yes. Writing, like any commentary, no. But I do love highlighting my favorite quotes. My favorite reading snack. I love Tostitos lime rounds. Have to be the rounds. Y'all know this. Must be the rounds. I also love Good and Gathered s'mores bark. Those are my favorites. Read one book at a time or multiple. One book per format. So I could do an ebook and an audio. So one at a time per format, but I could do two at a time if I'm doing ebook and audio. Buy books or library? A little bit of both. I am super fortunate that a lot of the books I'm reading are being read early, so I'll read those on ebook, but I absolutely love Libby, love heading over to the Nashville Public Library, to my local suburbs library as well, so the options are endless there, but a little bit of both there. Favorite place to read? In bed. I know I probably shouldn't be reading in bed, but I love reading in bed. And then right here, right where I'm sitting right now, I'm in my library and getting to stare up these beautiful shelves, which you see behind me and all my content. It's a beautiful place to be. So love that. Morning reader or night reader? Fun fact, I'm not a morning or a night person. There's nothing I love more than sleep. I love sleeping. I go to bed early and I love sleeping in late. I love both. I will sleep 9 to 9. I will sleep 10 to 10. I will sleep 8 to 8. Evening reading, not nighttime, but evening is usually my preference. And then hardcovers or paperbacks? Either, because I am primarily an ebook reader, so a lot of my books are shelf trophies, and I find them both to be absolutely beautiful. But if I am to read a physical copy, I'll read a paperback. So that's a little bit of get to know me for the beginning of April, or whenever you're listening to this. I hope you are having an absolutely great week, and I'm sending you all the love in the world. Thank you so much for all of your love and support over the past year of having this podcast. It is just truly one of my favorite platforms where I actually get to speak just, at length, long form. It's so fun for me. So I hope you all have as much fun as I do. And thank you for getting to know me a little bit better, or hearing more about me if you know me already. And I'll see you next week for some special episodes. We have some very, very, very special guests on the way to us, so stay tuned for that. And I think that'll do it for us. I'll see you in the next one.